Are you meant to stand like this, bend the knees, get over it? So complicated, right? Especially when you're going through a round, having to change from 7-iron to 5-iron, all the way to driver. I've got a simple routine for you today that's going to get you standing to the golf ball perfectly every single time, no matter what golf club you've got. So I want to start off with 7-iron, because that's probably the area in which most of us watching this video right now are pretty comfortable with hitting. Those extremes of those chips and those extremes of those driver are the areas in which you are plagued. Now, this is the routine I want you to follow. It's really, really simple. You think from the setup, we've got to control our width of stance, our posture, how much our legs bend, and ball position. Okay? So these 4 things, we get those right, we give ourselves the best chance of moving dynamically, but also contacting that golf club with a nice square face, poof, down at impact. So the routine I want you to use, no matter what club you have in your hand, is this. Number 1, we've got to get grip. I'm not covering grip in this video, we're just going to put our hands on the golf club and keep our hands roughly around belly button height. Now, with a 7-iron, I want you to take a stance just in of shoulder width apart. There will be some differences as we go through this, but the premise of what I am saying remains the same. So our width of stance is just on shoulder width apart. We would then slightly flare our feet, like I've done here. Now, keeping those hands at belly button height, just lower that club until it now runs parallel to the ground. You can really see here I've got a good solid base starting to form. Now all I want you to do now, like a crane, imagine someone's putting a steel rod through our hips. All I want you to do is tilt forwards from the hips until the club hits the ground. Now slightly bend those knees, like you're stood on a kitchen stool or you're perching on something. Shuffle into the golf ball. That gives me the perfect width of stance, the perfect posture to stand to the ball, right? So if I followed that same routine right now, with driver, the only difference here is I'm going to go just wide of shoulder width apart, keep those legs straight, get my grip, lower the club till it's parallel to the ground, tilt forwards from the hips, slightly bend the knees. So you can nice, easily and simply see here, that same routine is no different apart from 2 factors, width of stance and ball position. Okay, so just repeat that a few times, because I think for a lot of golfers right now that is going to feel horrendous. I mean that. You'll probably feel horrendous as you stand over the golf ball. When I've done that with majority of golfers before, when they've come on a lesson tee with me here, we tend to feel a lot more over the golf ball as opposed to sort of more standing up. Too many of us aren't over the golf ball enough, maybe because we've got back issues, maybe because we're not used to it, but you stand to this golf ball better, you're actually going to relieve some tension on that back, you're going to give yourself a better chance of moving athletically, the list goes on. So, you now know the routine you can stick to. Let's address that fact of ball position. How do I get a perfect ball position every single time? Now, what I'm going to do for you here is just actually grab only a few golf clubs in my hand. I only need a few here. Okay. So, pitch and wedge. We all know pitch and wedge starts roughly around our middle, and we're going to do a low down angle here so you can see this as we go along. We're then going to go with our 7-iron. So as I put 7-iron down here, you can see how my ball position would get slightly further up in my stance. Okay, now 5-iron as my club gets longer, and then on to driver. So you can quite simply see the relevance of me taking a longer club, more up in my stance, gives me more time to square the face, gives me less of a downwards hit, more of an upwards hit with driver. These are the reasons why we would want to see that ball position gradually get further forward. So some simple markers that I want you to use: zip line for pitching wedge, a logo sort of around our heart or area here for our sort of 7-iron, 6 and 5 irons, and then extremes of our driver. So every single time, if you can work to this down at the driving range, you're going to give yourself the best chance, I mean this, the best chance of striking your irons correct. So I've got this tee section set on the ground. I want you to adjust this red line to where your ball position is going to be. So I'm simply going to move this into a 7-iron ball position. I'm going to just hang my iron down. Right, okay, that's perfect. Now I'll go through my routine. So every single time I'm standing to that golf ball, correct ball position, correct stance, giving me the best chance of executing this shot correctly. So if I grabbed a 5-iron now, I would repeat the same process, but I would make sure that my ball position now was a little bit further up in my stance, so just give it a check, dangle it down, okay, hands on, lower the club, shuffle into the correct distance, slightly bend those knees. I'm now in the correct position. Take those 5-irons away. Repeat the same process with driver. Repeat the same process with pitching wedge. This is how you can stand to every single golf club correctly for a normal full shot. As a new golfer, as an experienced golfer, let's get this right before we think about anything specialist, because that is going to help us lower our scores, that is going to help us find the centre of the face, and that is the way to play some better golf. Thank you so much for watching today's video on Alex Elliott Golf. It's simple, it's easy, get it right, and make sure you also subscribe to the channel.